Peace and blessings. Dharma Shakti here. Welcome back to Monday Message. It is so great to be with you. I got a really short but powerful quote for you today from Yogi Bhajan. Yogi Bhajan was a Kundalini yoga teacher and did a lot of amazing, profound teachings with the technologies and sciences of yoga. And I was having a conversation with my friend Chrissy the other day, and she shared this quote with me from Yogi Bhajan, and it just really, sometimes you hear things and it just hits you right in the heart. That's what happened. I heard this and I was like, ooh, this is the one I really need to put in my pocket and carry around with me. So let's get into it. Yogi Bhajan says, excuses are self-abuses. Ooh, I know that's hard to hear. Excuses are self-abuses. I know that if you're anything like me, which you probably are, because I'm a regular human being just like you, is we come up with a lot of excuses for why we can't do something, or we're not able to do something, or why we're not ahead yet. And I think that we're all, I guess what I'm trying to say is we all, to some degree, are aware that we are making excuses. We are aware of it, right? We are aware of the fact that we are making excuses. We just don't want to admit it. We don't want to acknowledge it. And the tricky thing is that some of our excuses are very rational and very logical. And this is the mind's way of being very savvy, is it'll give you a very rational reason for why you can't do that thing, or why you shouldn't do that thing, or why you got to put it off or avoid it, or whatever it is. And we have to have the discernment, it's important that we have the discernment to recognize this is an excuse. I'm just putting off the thing that I need to do. It may be a rational excuse, but it's still nonetheless an excuse. And Yogi Bhajan says excuses are self-abuses. We are abusing ourselves every time we make an excuse for a commitment that we said we would do, especially when there are commitments we've made to ourselves. Right? So you making an excuse for why you can't go to the gym today, that's self-abuse. You're neglecting yourself. You're not caring for yourself. If you make an excuse of why you got to put off opening those bills that are there, that's self-abuse. You know that it's going to lead to just stress because you're avoiding the thing that you need to do. Basically, excuses are they're great ways for us to avoid the thing, whatever the thing is. And I don't know what your life has been like, but I have found that I can't avoid things. That one way or another, they always find their way back to me, and I've just gotten tired of excuses, and I got to be honest with myself. I have to be honest. I just don't feel like doing it today. I'm not going to do it. I know that's an excuse. That's just where I'm at today. I got to get okay with that. But I also got to recommit the next day and be like, all right, you had a down day. No more excuses. It's time to recommit. Excuses are self-abuses. I'm sure you've had, I'm sure you've heard, rather, of that saying, you either have excuses or you have results. You either have excuses or you'll have results. My friends, I am just trying to encourage you and nudge you in a loving, gentle way that, you are your own biggest obstacle. You are. I am my own biggest obstacle. You are your own biggest obstacle. We make these excuses, and then we wonder why we're not content with our life, why we're not happy with our lives, where we feel like our lives didn't turn out the way we wanted. They're not going where we want them to. We feel like they're stagnant. We feel like they're empty. We feel like it isn't enough. We feel like, what's next? Isn't there more? And all those things, if you look back enough, you can find along the way all the excuses that have kept you stuck in that place of what we may call mediocrity. Your life is just mediocre. Here's how you know your life is mediocre. People ask you, how are you doing? You say, I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm good. Everything's good. That's mediocre. None of us want to live in mediocrity. We were designed to live in greatness. We really were designed to live in greatness. There's this inherent drive, or this inherent calling within all of us, especially you see it in children, to want to be something great, because we know we were meant for something great. I'm sure you have memories of being a child. I'm sure there are some of us that don't, because we were bombarded with other memories that were being made that were maybe traumatic, right? So I want you to do your best, though, to think back to a time, if you can, when you were little, and you had that feeling in you, like I'm meant for something great. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm going to be somebody when I grow up. And not like I'm going to be somebody, but I have worth, I have value. I'm here for a purpose. I think all children really feel like they get it. They may not put it into words, but they feel it, they get it in their hearts. And that's why they're so curious about what they could be when they grow up. And somewhere along the way, we lose that. For so many reasons, we lose it. If you're lucky, your parents kept it nice and safe inside of you, and you're driven by that desire. The rest of us, it kind of got shoved down underneath all the rational, logical, just everyday, day-to-day, mundane stuff that we have to handle and deal with. And that call is in there. And that's why it just doesn't, it feels like, is this it? When we're living in mediocrity, it's like, well, I have the job, I have the home, I have the partner, but there's got to be more. Is this it? And the answer is, it doesn't have to be it. There can be more. You can live in the field of greatness, but I bet you right now what's getting in the way of you stepping into that field of greatness is all your excuses. And I want you to think long and hard about this quote: excuses are self-abuses. Next time you commit to doing something and then you're having that inner dialogue where you're talking your way out of the commitment and why it's okay, I want you to just stop and go, excuses are self-abuses. Is that what I'm doing right now? Do I want to abuse myself? Because look, if you had a friend, or even better, if you had a partner, your lover, your beloved, your loved one, your soulmate, your person, right? And they were always making excuses in the relationship. At some point, that's not going to feel good. It's gonna feel very negative. It's gonna create a toxic environment. It's going to create bickering and fighting and arguing. It's going to create discontent. It's going to create frustration and resentment. It just creates so many things. When you hear excuses from somebody long enough, you just kind of get over it, and you don't want to be in that kind of relationship anymore, right? So why would we do that to ourselves? We're doing it every day to ourselves, and I'm guilty. That's why when I heard this, it was like, oh my God, I'm self-abusing. I'm abusing myself because I'm wavering in my commitments, and I'm making excuses. And I can either have excuses or I can have results. And I don't know about you, I'm in a place in my life where I want results. Not because I'm result driven, but because I know that my life is worth the effort of driving in that direction. And as long as I'm moving in that direction, whether I get the actual result or not, I'm going to get so much out of moving towards that result. And so I have to catch myself as well. That's an excuse. That's just an excuse. And you got to be real aware, because like I said, they're sneaky. Very sneaky, these excuses. And they'll be very rational. And they'll be very real. And they'll be very logical. I've had them. I've been there. Or it's like, I'm just so busy, I can't do it. I'm just so tired, I just can't do it. I just can't. I don't have. You don't understand. It's just not working out. And on the excuses go. And if you're finding that your life is miserable because of everyone else in your life, I want you to take a look in the mirror, because I want you to check in, what is the common denominator of all those things? Out of the relationship, out of schooling, out of work, out of society, your friends, all those areas that you're like, my life just sucks. This whole external area just feels like it all sucks, right? Stop making excuses. I want you to look inside and go, wow, what's the one thing that all these things have in common? Me, I'm the common denominator. Maybe my life sucks because I've just chosen to settle and blame my problems on everybody else and make excuses and rationalize to myself why I'm stuck, because it's too hard. You see how we get trapped in this downward spiral where all of a sudden we're living this, what they call the cage life, where you're like a zoo animal and you're in the back of the cage and you're just, everybody's out there and you're just glaring at everybody oh, they don't understand. They're all out there doing it and I'm stuck back here in this cage and I can't get out. If you're that person who is saying you don't understand, you don't understand, you're saying this to people all the time who are trying to help you, you don't understand. right? Nobody feels it like I do it. Nobody's going through it the way I'm going through it. Nobody's had their heart broken the way that my heart has been broken. I'm calling bullshit because you're not the only person who has suffered heartbreak. You're not the only person who's ever had to battle with their weight and their eating habits. You're not the only person who has children and is running a business and a lot on their plate. Like, there have been several people who have gone before you who have done it. And yes, they're different people, but it is possible to overcome. So what I'm trying to help you do, I guess, is come out of this sort of what we might call the victim mentality, where and I don't mean to like confuse or mix this with, you know, actual real victims in life who things happen to them that are absolutely not their fault at all. I'm talking about a victim mentality where your whole life is messed up because your parents suck. Your whole life is messed up because the government is oppressing us. Your whole life sucks because your friends don't support you. Your whole life sucks because people just don't see the good in you and they won't give you a job. If those are your stories, and they're everywhere, the common denominator is you, and you are making excuses, and those excuses are leading to self-abuses. You are allowing your life to stay in that place of mediocrity while your heart is yearning and calling and longing for the field of greatness which you deserve to play in. But if we stay stuck in our excuses, we will always live there. If you want to get beyond the challenge, you want to get beyond the difficulty, you want to get out of the stuckness that you're in your life, you have to take accountability. 100% accountability, even for the shit you don't want to be accountable for because it sucks to say it out loud. You have to do it, at least to yourself. Be like, damn, I really brought that to the table, didn't I? I really did that. My old self came through, and that happened. No excuse for it. It just happened. Shit, I hit the snooze button again. I was tired, but that's just an excuse. I'm preventing myself from taking care of my body, which then is a self-abuse. Excuses are self-abuses. Please love yourself. Be committed to yourself enough that you're willing to keep your commitments, that you're willing to endure something difficult that you said that you wanted to experience or have or achieve or do or be. Don't give up just because it gets hard. Don't give up just because you're tired. Don't give up. And I'm not saying stay in a shitty situation, because Dharma said don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your future. Don't give up on that beautiful life that you deserve to live. Don't give up on a beautiful, positive, wonderful future that you can create for yourself. But if you live in that place where you're full of excuses, and look, if you've been doing it for a long time, this is going to be a difficult one to unpack for you, because it's just so automatic at this point, and we've rationalized it so much that it's just the norm. Don't let it be your norm. Catch yourself. No matter how valid the reason is, recognize that it is an excuse. You either want it or you don't want it. If you want it, you will do anything, and you will recommit again and again. No matter how much you fall off that horse, you will get back up and on if you really want it. We can tell how much people really, really want things by how many excuses they make and for how long. And I know it's hard when you want something yet it's not happening, to admit it, I've been getting in my own way. I've been really attached to my excuses. There's a payoff for the excuse. There's a payoff that we get. If I lean into this excuse, I can stay comfortable. But I want you to think about, what's it costing you? What is it costing you to continue to make excuses? What is it costing you to make excuses? And what will you gain when you finally take accountability for your life and you show up and you say, I want to have agency and command over where my life goes. So no more excuses. I'm just going to own up to everything. I'm going to own it. I'm going to own up to the fact that, whatever, I get triggered when somebody says such and such. I'm going to own it. That's just where I'm at right now. I'm going to own the fact that I'm late all the time. That's me. I'm going to own it. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm just going to own it. and be accountable for it. I think this is how we get beyond the living in that field of mediocrity, because we're so committed to our excuses, and we're so committed to the payoff that we get from leaning into those excuses. And the payoff is that life stays easy. Life stays easy, and it stays comfortable, stays safe. But in that area, that's like the field of mediocrity. That's why so many people live there. If you want to live in the field of greatness, you have to think, what is it costing me to continue to have excuses about these things that I really desire to have or do or be? I know that was a lot, and I had a lot to say. It came out kind of fast, so I'm sorry if I was talking too fast. Apologies if that was a lot. Go ahead and rewind this video and watch it over again. This is a powerful one. This quote right here, that's why I love quotes, because it's like a little line that can unpack a lot of information for you. So, excuses are self-abuses. My friend, please love yourself this week. Care enough about yourself that you're going to stop making excuses. Stop making excuses and give yourself permission to grow. You deserve it. All right? Remember that you are an amazing being, full of greatness, and I believe in you. I hope you believe in yourself, and I love you, friend. Thank you for tuning in. It is a pleasure to be with you. Please drop me a like down below if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to share it with a friend, because sharing is caring. All right, y'all. See you next time. Next week, I may be dropping a Wednesday Wisdom. We'll see. Until next time, keep your head up high and your heart open wide, and go out there and live that life you know you are meant to live. Namaste.